My mom freaks out anytime it's time. Like, no, you need to upgrade your phone. Like, it's time.
Yes.
She freaks out. Her only concern is,
Can't get
am
my
I going to
phones.
lose my pictures?
That's right.
This is the One Step Better podcast. Helping small businesses make wins each and every week. Hey everybody, welcome back to the One Step Better podcast. I am Mike, and this is Mike Jr.
Hello, Matt's wannabe.
This is Matt Patrick.
Nice to meet you. How are you doing?
He wishes he could be a Mike.
One day I'll be Mike when I grow up.
One day. Matt, going back, 100 years ago, whenever you were a kid, what's the first video game system that you had?
I started with Atari, the one button, one joystick. Pac-Man, Asteroids, Space Invaders. But not too much later, my favorite one of all time is Coleco. It had the best, it had this controller that you had it had a bunch of buttons, first of all.
Coleco is not a game. It's a system?
Machine.
Oh.
Yeah, it's a machine. And they had different types of ones. So we had kind of precursor to Nintendo where they had the duck hunting, the gun you could get. This one had a race car wheel you could drive when you're driving a car. It had one for baseball. It had 4 buttons for all the bases, and you had both. It was pretty advanced for 1980.
It had a controller specific to a game?
It had different types of control. You could buy different types of controllers for different types of games.
I have never heard of this thing. Coleco.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. It was great.
Is that only available in South Florida?
I don't think so. It was pretty big.
Really?
They had a lot of games. I'll send you a screenshot. You can buy it on Amazon probably still.
Yeah. The original is $20,000.
You can probably buy it on eBay at this point.
Yeah.
It's probably not on Amazon anymore. It was fun. I loved it.
Wow. My first was the original.
Yours was
Nintendo.
PlayStation?
Yeah. Have you ever heard of Xbox One? That was my first. No, we got Christmas in 89-ish.
What's your favorite Nintendo game?
Probably Contra.
Yeah, I liked Kung Fu and I liked Excitebike.
I was about to say Excitebike was pretty. You could build your own course. And
Other than Tecmo Bowl and stuff those were awesome.
That was always fun. But you know what's underrated is Dr. Mario. I could play Dr. Mario for a long time. It's
I've never
basically
played Dr.
Mario's
Mario.
version of Tetris.
I've never played Dr. Mario. I've never played Mario Kart. Actually, that's true. I actually played at TJ's shower. They played Mario Kart. I'm like, yeah, I have no idea how to play this
That's
game.
the only time you played Mario Kart? Really?
Dude, I'm 49. But we didn't have
Mario Kart though.
Nope. Super Mario Brothers and all those. I played all those, but after that, no.
Yeah.
Sports games.
So prior to all that, what did people do for fun?
I have no idea. We play a lot of wiffle ball in the yard.
You go outside and play with
we
sticks.
built forts. We built forts a lot. Rode 4-wheelers and dirt bikes. Anything to hurt yourself as a kid.
Why? So why in the world did we ever invent video games if all the other stuff was more fun?
I don't
video
know.
games?
I think it was because some days it rains. South Florida weather sucks sometimes.
Video games, when they come on the scene, it really was a pretty big disruptor. Everything started to change, getting more digital. And now in today's business world, which is just a really long stretch, but we're going to go with it, paper is going away.
Yeah.
So now we're going all things digital again. No, in reality, paper moving to digital has an opportunity to be a big lift of efficiency, but it requires a lot of changes to systems and processes, and there's a lot of questions that come with moving into a digital world. Here at Patrick Accounting and Works, we've been digital for
Since day one.
way long
That's
ago.
not true. Client one, I still had a client folder.
Yeah.
But other than that,
Yeah.
I had work papers.
But for the most part, it was all stored digitally.
Correct. Very much from the beginning.
And you hate paper.
I hate paper, as I have a piece of paper.
As you have a
right
sheet of paper in front of you. Yeah, where's your iPad with all your notes on it?
I usually would.
But there's some challenges that can come with moving into the digital realm, especially trying to get into a paperless office. Beyond just changing perception and employee behavior and, what do I do whenever somebody drops off a sheet of paper? There's more to it than that. So we're going to talk through some of those difficulties, some of those struggles, and hopefully maybe shed some light on some ways to move into the digital world. So Matt, whenever you think about putting the paper down and moving into a digital world, I think one of the hardest things to do is where in the world do I start? And what is ground zero in figuring this stuff out?
For me, I need to map out really quickly, what paper do I currently have in my office and why? So if it's time sheets that my people fill out that then has to get keyed into something else, which then turns into, we have a sales order that's on paper when somebody's in the field. I really want to understand the mapping of the actual paper flowing in your processes today so that we have an understanding of what we have to try to eventually replace. Then we have to have a good system for where and how we're going to store that information, name that information, make sure people are using it, make sure it's not creating more work to create the digital document than it is the actual piece of paper document. And so I usually start with like, what does the paper map look like today? And so we've done this a lot with clients over the years. It's like, okay, walk me through what happens when you get a bill in the mail. What happens when you go out to a new customer and you're going to do a quote? Like, what are you doing there? Okay, now you had to go make an order with your vendor. You probably called them on the phone. They sent you a piece of paper with the PO. Now the items come in. You check off the boxes on the PO. Like, how do you get that into a digital process? And so I want to make sure I understand that whole map first. For us, there's some easy, like low-hanging fruit to get off of paper really quickly. First thing I think about is, turning your receipts into digital receipts. So just taking a picture of them and having a system to handle those. We do that with our clients almost from day one. How you're handling accounts payable, the bills that come in, where do those go? How do you get them scanned in? How do you make sure you're not missing anything? But there's a lot more paper than just those things. And so that's on the accounting side. Payroll side, it could be the paper forms they're filling out when a new employee starts, the application they had somebody was applying for the job, how they turn that into, okay, now I get all this stupid tax stuff all filled out when somebody starts, making sure their handbook gets signed, all that stuff. We want to make sure that process is understood, what they were doing on paper and how we're going to do that now.
So, in the world that we live in today, there's still paper around. Like, there's still things that have to be done with it. Why should I even consider moving digital? If I still have to do paper something, whether it's a receipt, whether it's a purchase order, whether it's my grandmother wrote down her order on this sheet of paper, whatever the reason is, if I still have to have a paper something, why even try to move into the digital world?
A couple reasons I think of right away. Number one, paper can get lost, right? It's physical. It's easy to get lost, damaged, water, whatever it may be. And so like the first thing to my mind is like, it starts with having a system. If you have a really good system where the paper always gets in the same spot and you never lose it and it was not possible to get burned and it was impossible to get damaged or just misplaced, then that's probably not necessarily broken, but is it as mobile and portable and secure as you wish it to be? Is it searchable? I mean, so digital allows you to search it with multiple ways of doing that. Also having it visible to more than one person. So if location is a impact where you have multiple locations of a restaurant, or you have, hybrid employees, or you're working out of multiple offices of a doctor's office, having everything in one spot that's visible to everybody is, I would think, an advantage over having everything just in one spot. And also the long-term storage of just the physical space, the physical spaces. I mean, when I started at Anderson back in 1997, we had 2 floors of a file room. And in Patrick Accounting, we have no file room. So that's just physical space I'm having to pay for just to store docs.
Accounting firm, payroll company, it feels like that's a lot easier to get into a digital realm. But there's certain industries that I would imagine just for whatever reason, they're not willing to, or maybe they think they can't make the jump.
Name one, Mike. I don't know of any.
I mean, when you think about doctors, there's so many out there that haven't made the jump into that world.
For sure.
And
timeline may matter there, I think. Like if you're 55 and you're retiring in 6 or 7 years, the effort to get to the next step of that may not be worth it. I'm 50, so I guess I can say 55 is like way older.
Yeah. Those old people
like mid 50s. No, but like the ability for you to have the physical storage, but also just the usability of the data now is worth the endeavor. And I don't think it has to happen overnight. I mean, I think there's if you're a doctor and all your notes, I mean, I actually think doctors are probably more on the cutting edge than others because EMR was kind of forced on them a lot. But having digital notes means, transfer from one doctor to another. Your information can go to the new doctor if you decide to switch. If you're a restaurant, I mean, all the AP invoices that come in, and the same all the stuff that the ops or the receiving invoices, receiving items off the POs, those would all be things I would think would be easily just take a picture, I mean, with today's OCR or AI, they'll be able to read that document pretty easily and file that relatively easily. Just keeping all that stuff in. I mean, where do you store it in a restaurant? Like, it's just going to pile up over time, and it's not going to be very organized. There's just no way.
Yeah.
And also, if you have multiple locations, there's not sharing data between where it all needs to be.
I like the physical touch of paper.
Oh, yeah.
For like if I'm doing really like creative stuff, if I'm brainstorming something, I'm gonna write that down on a legal pad, notepad somewhere. I try to do that on like an iPad on the note taking thing, and that works well for me for like if I'm learning something, I'm at a conference or whatever, and I'm taking notes. That works well for me. But I struggle with using digital paper.
After you write it down on paper, if you're trying to learn something, how many legal pads do you have in your office right now? I know I at one point had like 15.
Yeah.
I'd
it's a
start
struggle.
one, I can't find one.
Yeah.
I know I wrote that down on one of these. Which one was it? And then that information doesn't get disseminated to anybody else.
Yeah. Well, it's and some of it doesn't need to, but
Oh, correct. Yeah.
my bigger problem is, oh snap, I left my legal pad at home, or I left it at the office, and I'm at home and I want it, whatever. That's where it starts to
Hey,
get
there you go.
frustrating.
Mobility, Mike. That's the beauty of it.
Yeah, it is. And then another struggle I have with going digital is I have a tendency not to store things consistently. And so I got stuff all over the place. And then it's like, how do I find the thing? And so like, we talk about having here internally, we have a naming convention, and there's very clear structure around how we store things, where we store things, how we name the things that we store to make that easier. But if you're not organized in that way, it can get out of hand a little bit.
Oh, in a hurry. I mean, simple things for us is like we have a way by which we name a bank statement or a bank reconciliation in a format so that we always know we can find it. And so when we're looking, do we reconcile that statement? We have a number, a month. It's very formatted. We can search them in that format and find it. But yeah, I think that is some of the starting points. If I was starting this from scratch, like I said, I come up with my map and go, what's the easiest things for me to start to turn digital? What would have the most impact if I turned it digitally? So like I think about somebody who's handwriting timesheets today. We have a client I know that still does this today. The guy's turning a timesheet every day. They then give it to a person who does nothing but basically key in that stuff every day. That's basically their job. They do about 6 hours work there. I'm like, man, if they could just like punch that on a keypad, on an iPad, that cuts out that person could do so much other more valuable stuff than just keying data.
Yeah.
My mom used to be a medical billing, and so she would take the handwritten sheets, was the white, pink, and yellow copy, and key that into the insurance system to generate it. And now the docs can just check. I did this, this, and this. I mean that kind of went away because she had to she repurposed into another thing. It was like she's helping with exit or whatever it was at the doctor's office. But like that's what I think about the impact that turning. Just the repetition of moving data or rekeying existing data to another system that doesn't make any sense.
When I broke my arm and I went to the doctor, it was a bit awkward because they use electronic medical records, and he has an assistant with him that is typing out things. And then what my actual doctor is doing, he's an orthopedic surgeon.
Check-in boxes in this.
No, he's using voice to text, and so he's talking during my entire appointment. And it's awkward for me because like, are you talking to me? Are you talking to your computer? Like, and he's using voice to text to get an entire record of what's happening. That was a bit awkward, but it's like, you know what? That kind of makes sense.
I mean, the old way they would after the meeting had a dictation machine. They're walking out of your thing talking about that in the hallway as they're going to their next appointment. You're like,
Yeah.
I don't know if I want that to be in the hallway.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah.
Hey, doc, I thought that was between me
saying
and
that,
you,
yeah.
man. What's up?
When you think about different types of business, different industries, different companies out there, do you think there's some that are maybe more prone to paper versus going digital, or
Oh, of course. I mean, I think if you're not very tech savvy, number one, like I'm thinking about my client who's still keying paper timesheets, is because their team has basically little to no tech skills. And so the idea of implementing technology is like, we got them on a smartphone now. We're moving forward.
Yeah.
And so I think some of that is the impetus of either demographic or technology knowledge, but also sometimes just physical. Like if you're in a truck all day and you're working on pools, maybe it doesn't make sense that your guys are carrying an iPad next to the pool. I mean, and just maybe some physical limitations there. But
If you owned a different kind of business,
it would absolutely be techie because I'm techie.
Yeah.
I want it.
how do you overcome that then? Like if I'm a business owner that maybe that's not my natural bit, I'm comfortable with technology, but I don't care to be on the leading edge of anything. How do you overcome that?
I think it starts with why. Like, what is the benefit of digital versus paper? How can I improve my efficiencies or processes, more visibility, more mobility, more security in the data? That's the only thing I would think of. It would be, and now implementing that may be harder. You have to get outside help. You have to have a champion in your office, somebody else that, other than you who's not techie, to own that. I know on my end, right from the very beginning, it was definitely a mindset of I wanted to have everything available to me whenever I wanted it. In order to do that, I didn't have to worry about carrying a legal pad if I always had it on my phone or my, at that time, Trio. But yeah, Trio. But yeah, I had an email on my phone almost when we started the firm, and that was kind of like I have access to all my information at all times. Also, the ability in our world to work from anywhere, or if I'm with a client, I can pull up their data, information, notes, whatever in one spot. That's ideal.
So in today's world where everybody's trying to get access to your information,
You're going to ask me about security now.
I'm going to ask you about security. How do you go about making sure that data is secure, that it is disposed of appropriately, in those timelines? How much effort does that take?
The setup is the effort, setting the systems up so that it's like, so let's just say we have a, record retention policy of 6 years. So that means we keep things for 6 years. I want to auto archive at the end of 6 years. I don't want to have to remind myself to do that on a rolling schedule. Setting, using best of breed technology to do these things. So, if it could be, making sure you're using a known provider, getting the resources to help you make sure that you are thinking through the security of your information is super critical. In our world, we implement, a ton of tools to help mitigate as best we can security risk. I mean, we have, the best information for a hacker to ever get is probably at an accounting firm or, one of the best. And so you think about that and you're like, I have to think through all the safeguards I have to have on the data I have. So we have multiple layers of security built in. If I'm someone just looking at making my receipts digital, as long as my credit card number is masked on the receipt.
Stealing?
Yeah. What am I really stealing there? Same thing with bills. I mean, if you want to pay my bill, I'll let you have it all day long.
Yeah. Please take more.
You take all my bills. I've always wondered that. Like, I call the IRS. I
I
call the IRS, and I'm like, man, if I'm calling you, you're not sending me money. So if they want to know and pay my tax bill, go ahead. Let them have access to my stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's just, you have to have the security mindset of what are the roadblocks I'm putting in place to make this harder for the thieves, but also just knowing that you're mitigating it, you're not eliminating it.
Well, and then you have like HIPAA concerns in some industries.
HIPAA for sure.
If I give too much access to information, that can really come back to bite me at some point.
Yep.
It's a double-edged sword. There is a lot of benefit to getting things digital, access, mobility, all those things. But it is difficult, especially if you have maybe an older workforce. I'd hate to say it, but if you have an older workforce or if people are really set in their ways, it is hard to get people to eliminate paper from their lives. Whether it's I got 18 million Post-it notes, sticking around, or I just like to write things down on scratch pieces of paper, whatever it may be. It's tough to move in that direction.
We have a lot of our own staff that still do that. I mean, we have a very good project management system, but they'll still write down their list of things they have to do on a piece of paper and feel good about checking it off. We have people that want to touch and feel a brochure still. We have people that want to read a physical book versus a digital book. I think those are all fine. We're talking about storage of information. We're talking about repetitive information and information accessibility. I still have to turn that brochure into digital so that we have access to reprint it even. So having the ability to have a system where all my stuff is digital, and I know when I'm going to need some paper sometimes, and we have trade shows we have to go to events with, and we have QR codes, but we also still have physical brochures or one-pagers or, who could be, and I still love a handwritten note. There's nothing better than a handwritten thank you note sent to me or a personalized letter. And those are great. And they still have a lot of value. I don't think paper is eliminated, but that's not repetitive in nature that I'm sending a thank you out in an email. Like, that's not the same thing.
Yeah. So really where you like to start is this is the normal paper that's flowing through my work environment. how can I turn that normal workflow to a more digital process?
Yeah, and there's accountability to that, but there's also security. Like I think of it from the audit proofing of your information, and from an accounting standpoint, I've got digital receipts for everything I spend. I got all my bills in one place. If 5 years from now I get audited by the IRS and I want to know what I spent on, my utility bill, I can go to one spot, find every utility bill we've had for the last 3 years or 5 years, and hit a button and get it out. I don't have to worry about searching through that folder, making a copy, all that stuff. And then, I'm missing 3. I don't have to worry about that.
Do you ever worry? So, because we save a bunch of stuff digitally, but we still save it. You have that versus, I could always just go log into my bank account and pull that bank statement. Like, where do you draw the line between, I know that I can get that information through third-party providers at any point in time versus I need to save a copy of that myself?
This is interesting. For the office, I'm very regimented on what we want to have here. At my house, though, I don't keep every mortgage statement every month.
Yeah.
I don't keep every utility bill. I think about the ones I want to keep that I need to have. If it's if we refinance a loan, I want to keep a digital copy of that HUD document, but I don't want to go reach out to that attorney if I want to go to sell my house to figure out, whatever it was. And so we do not personally keep a ton of receipts. We keep receipts that would impact tax or stuff like a warranty type information. But other than that, we're not keeping very many things at the house. I mean, obviously digital photos and all that stuff, but like we don't have a digital or a paper system for those. I really just don't send me a statement on paper and send me an email that we have to pay a bill, and I set up for automatic payment, and I don't ever need to log in unless I need to go find my balance.
Yeah.
And I just do that.
Do you still have non-digital photos like your old photo albums from your mom?
I mean, well, I have mine for sure because I'm way pre-digital, but like it's funny, the kids, right? So my oldest is 20, born in 2003. We have a nice paper scrapbook for her. Mandy has a physical picture.
Olin Mills photos?
No. We had some of those. We had Sears photos or whatever it was, but then we had, physical pictures placed in a scrapbook with stuff. Then the second kid, it turned into a digital scrapbook, and the third kid is all on my phone. Yeah. So it's like there's no scrapbook or anything for Mason. Yeah. So that's, I think, typical for a third kid, but also just like the evolution of digitalness of photos during the 20 years of my kids.
My mom freaks out anytime it's time. Like you need to upgrade your phone. Like it's time.
Yes.
She freaks out. Her only concern is, am I going to lose my pictures?
That's right.
So going digital, I mean, realistically, 2023, you're not if you're not there at this point, you're probably behind the game, but it does have a lot of benefits. And if you're not there, I'd encourage you to take some steps, even if it is, these are the things I get every month in the mail, and maybe I need to send that to me via email, or let me log in.
How do I unsubscribe from all the junk magazines this time of year? The mail is awful right now.
Yeah. I don't know. I got to get my Target toy book so I can start circling off the toys I want for Christmas.
Target. I still remember the Sears wish book.
Yes.
That was like gold. I'm like, I'm going to get that basketball hoop. And it never showed up when Santa came. I don't understand why.
That's a different podcast.
Yes. Well,
thanks guys for listening. Really appreciate you tuning in. Make sure you click subscribe so you don't miss next week's episode, and we'll catch you then. Have a great day. Thanks for listening to the One Step Better podcast. I'd really appreciate it if you would take some time to rate us 5 stars on your podcast player of choice, and make sure that you subscribe to our YouTube channel so that you never miss out on another episode. Thanks, and have a great day.